All right, we're still in Kansas City for the second race of the tour of Kansas City. This is the circuit race, and in fact, we're in the same park. We're on Cliff Drive. We just completed the prologue, and now they've added a little section for a circuit race. This is the Masters race, and we'll be completing 6 laps. There I am, trying to figure out how things are going to go today. And we are off. Got my data down below, miles per hour, heart rate, cadence, and oh man, the power. Jason Engel, the organizer of the Minnesota flyover, takes off from the gun. And there's a car on the road, but we all get by it without incident. Hopefully that's the last time that happens today. But again, my name is Brady Prenzlow, and this is the first time I've ridden or raced this course. I've heard a lot of great things about this course. I've been excited to race it now for the last couple of weeks, and here we are. It's always interesting racing out of town because I don't know most of the field, who's strong, who's not, who goes on attacks that fade, who can stick attacks, but here we are in a group of 3. I did not plan on my race starting like this, but it did. Jason must have had this in the plan from the get-go. So here we are up on the top of the course, the highest elevation, about ready to descend a little bit with a long false flat on the backside before winding around on Cliff Road. And we are a little over a half a mile into the race, and here I am pushing the wind out front. Again, not how I planned on starting the race. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, this isn't going to stick, but maybe we're wearing out a few guys in the back. They don't know who I am. They maybe don't know who any of the 3 of us are, but regardless, here we are. This section of the road, oh, we got a guy that bridged up, man. He must have just killed himself to get up there. And about the time he bridges up, we turn off the gas. I was thinking, oh, that was a wasted effort. One of the reasons why we turned off the gas is because this false flat section on the back was the worst. There's a much bigger hill on the finishing stretch, but for some reason this hill just killed me every time. So we're cranking at 18, but I'm pushing almost 400 to 500 watts. The road's a little rough on the right-hand side, but again, we're not going too fast. We've still got a little gap on the field as we are pushing up this hill on the first of our 6 laps. There are points on one of the laps. I think they did let us know that yes, it would be at the end of the 4th lap that there will be points. But right now we're just trying to get through the first lap. So the false flat turns into a slight descend, and Jason Engel rides and races motocross, so I know that he can cook these turns a lot faster than I can. This first one's not bad. You could do this at top speed. The second one gets a little bit tighter. And again, trying to find the apex. I never went out as far as I needed to coming out of that turn. And Jason could pretty much gap the field every time. So now we are descending down onto Cliff Drive, where the prologue TT was this morning. This is the turnaround point right here for the prologue TT. So we've all experienced this section of road at least once. And it's nice to see that it is a little bit drier, but it's still pretty wet. So my cameras are going to get wet as they are right now, but you still get a sense of how the race unfolds here. So again, we still got a little bit of gap on the field. I'm doing way more work than I had planned on this first lap out. I kind of wanted to sit in, stay towards the front, see what happened, but nope, I'm part of a group that is animating the first part of this race. And again, if you haven't come down to race the tour of Kansas City, this is a beautiful course. Promoters do a great job, and the circuit race has definitely lived up to the hype from what I heard. It's a little bit of a hike for any of us from Minnesota to come on down, but very fun course. just technical enough, just hilly enough, very scenic. All right, we have our friends back. The rest of the field is pretty much back together. I don't know if they kicked anybody off the back. Jason puts in one more dig as I pretty much sit up and try to get some energy back before this finishing hill. And Jason's pretty much figured it out too. I'm thinking at this point he's probably pretty mad at me because I came around and did a little work, but I didn't kill myself to make that brake stick. All right, Brendan Hale makes a move, as he does. Last year, he was the winner of the Masters circuit race at the Tour of Kansas City with a very similar move. I think he stayed out on his own, and this is just what he told me, but I think he stayed out on his own a couple of laps after countering. So he's trying this move again. And I know that Brendan is really strong. I'm not sure that he's strong enough to stay out for over 5 laps. So I let others try to reel him back. This rider from the Bicycle Shack racing team is out front quite a bit. I feel like he is working for a teammate, although I think his strongest teammate ends up getting a flat somewhere in this race and getting lapped and then coming back at the end. All right, here we are in the course. They call this Gooseneck Hill because I'm guessing it looks a little like a gooseneck as it turns around. It's not super long, it's not super steep, but it's just punchy enough that it can be a deciding factor. And man, oh man, this first time up the hill, I felt horrible. After being in that little break for a mile and a half, this trip up the hill definitely hurt the worst. Now pushing 500 watts, only going 13 miles an hour, getting swarmed by everybody. I'm sure my family saw me and thought, uh-oh, Dad's not looking very good here. So here we are, lap 1, just under 3 miles. 1 lap down, 5 to go. And I was really thinking, oh man, we've got to do 5 more of these. Nothing too eventful happens in this race, so I'm going to speed things up a little bit. We're going to go 4 or 5 times the speed. It would be really nice if we did travel this fast, but we do not. So again, we all pretty much stay together. There's a few attacks. I try to stay up front. Jason's on my wheel. And yeah, you know, this section continues to kind of tap my legs. Here I am out front for a little bit, and Jason even said, I want to be up front when we do these switchbacks every time. And it made sense because he could pretty much gap us on these switchbacks every time he did them. He'd come into them hotter, he'd go out of them hotter. Again, Bicycle Shack up front, pushing the pace. We've got Robert Ashton, a 50-plus local Minnesota rider, on my rear as we are coming up to the finish for lap 2. And I don't know whether it was lap 2 or lap 3 on the hill that I decided to shift into my small ring, and I've got a subcompact, so that means I'm shifting down to a 52, and it's spinning a little bit faster. And again, this time up the hill felt a lot better. Still pushing 500 watts. My heart rate's 170.
Looks like Jeff C. slinging the group across, 559 in the back.
And at this point I'm thinking, yeah, I can do this for 4 more laps. So again, nothing much happens on this 3rd lap either, so speeding things up. We obviously had caught Brendan Hale. I think we caught him on the top of that first climb, so I think we spit a few guys out the back, but for the most part, at this point, I was realizing that nothing was going to get away, although I was still staying up front trying to keep an eye out just in case something did. So we're about 6.5 miles in. Not quite halfway done with this race. We're on our third of 6 laps. And loving the course. This is a 40 plus, 50 plus race. The Pro 1-2 guys race later in the evening, and they do 11 laps. I don't know if I'd have 5 more laps in me. And I apologize again for my cameras, as it probably dried out by the end of the night, but because it had rained overnight, it made for a pretty wet course. And this whole race, I'm from Minnesota, trying to assess who's got good legs. At this point, I didn't know how what were the times of the prologue earlier, so I really didn't know where the big legs were, who had the big legs.
We're ringing the bell. This is the King of the Mountain lap, so next time across, a warning point for the King of the Mountain.
All right, I don't know whether I'm going to go for him at this point. My legs still kind of feel like garbage, and I'm telling myself, as that guy runs me into the curb, I maybe dove under when I shouldn't have either, but at this point I'm trying to assess whether I want to go for these KOM points or not, or whether I want to go for the win. But I kind of just figure out at the time, I figure out whether I'm going to go for them when they get there. But I have figured out that if I am going to go for them, I'm going to go early. So I'm going to see on these KOM points, kind of testing out the finish, if I go early, who's coming with me. So again, Jason Engel gets out toward the front. He wants to do these switchbacks. I get swarmed a little bit. And here we are on Cliff Drive again. I am following Mylan Sherman from Sakari Racing. He ended up tying me in the time trial, if you can imagine, down to the 100th of a second. So we're pretty equally fitness as he's pushing the pace. All right, I slow things down a little bit here because this is a KOM lap, and we'll see how things unfold. Again, I'm sitting on his wheel, and I'm going to go. But I'm trying to figure out when I want to go and who is going to follow me and whether I can maintain power all the way up this little punchy hill or not. So we're not going very fast. We're going up a slight hill, but 1920, I take off. Bam! And it was so slippery right there, my rear tire spun about 3 or 4 times when I got out of the saddle and into the pedals. But I believe this is Ben Berger from Momentum Racing, who sits on my wheel and comes around and just goes. I miss a gear right there. I lose a little momentum, but at this point I'm thinking, man, I'm not catching Ben. So now I'm just trying to hold off another local racer, Jason Rue. And we do a bike throw, and I get it. So I get second in the KOM points to Ben. All right, we have 2 laps left, folks. We're on lap 5 of 6. And again, nothing really gets away. So pretty uneventful lap. People are just looking at one another. Although I didn't even know it at the time, but when we sprinted up on that KOM lap, there was a gap. So there was maybe 10 or 12 of us that had a gap, and the rest of the field eventually bridges back after these switchbacks, but I had no idea. It really wouldn't have impacted me one way or the other. But yeah, when we hit it on that KOM lap, we ended up bridging a bunch of the field. Again, pretty short race. At these 3-mile laps, we're only at 13 miles. approaching the final lap, the final bell lap. And I honestly do not know whether my legs are prepared for this final push or not. So I just want to stay safe, stay out of the wind as much as I can, and give it all I have for this last push. All right, we are now at normal speed for the rest of the race. Like I said, we got 14 miles. We have 1 lap to go. Get some support from my family there.
And the 50 plus, and now hearing the bell for 1 lap to go. It is 1 lap to go for our Masters race out here today. Jack Mason bringing the group across. Eric Bing sitting second wheel as they head up into turn number 1. 1 lap to go.
Yeah, people are getting tired at this point, for sure. 1 lap to go, we all got it in us. There's the rider who ended up getting first in the KOM points. At this point, I'm kind of shaking out my legs, trying to assess whether I could rip it up that hill or not. And I think everybody else is doing a lot of that as well. Putting out 0 watts, just holding wheels. This rider you see with the deep dish wheel in the back and the spare wheel or aluminum wheel up front, he ended up flatting. Who knows how he could have done in this circuit race, because he ended up winning the time trial. That is Eric Finks. I knew nothing about him before this weekend. However, tomorrow's circuit, or tomorrow's crit, I know a lot more about him. All I knew about him at this point was that he had been lapped, not realizing that he had had a flat tire. So he's back in the race, and I think he's just trying to push the pace to keep things safe, push the pace to help out a teammate who could possibly win the race. But right now I am on another local racer, Jason Rue, who again, he got 3rd in the KOM, and he won the TT Prologue. I don't know this at this point, but he looks like a pretty safe wheel to be on. So we're dropping down before we creep up on this false flat. And again, it is a gorgeous day. It's creeping up above 80. It's about noon. And we're getting hungry for lunch and hungry for the finish. Got Brendan Hale on my rear. And then I get swarmed, and I don't know if it's just the side of the road I was at, but I went from this pretty small field of who's left. I would say that our field is down to about 25 or 30. I think we've spit a few guys out. And I get swarmed going up this false flat and go from the front to pretty much the back of our group. Although with a group this size, it's not too hard to move up from the back to the front. So here I am in the caboose of our group, going into these switchbacks thinking, I do not want to be here with a half a lap to go. So now I've got mission, move up whenever possible. One last time through these switchbacks, and it does get a little hairy. We get a guy who, I think this guy right up to the left of me possibly ends up on the grass up here. Oh no, it's this guy. I don't know if he put himself out there, he got bumped out there a little bit, but alright, last time through the switchbacks. It is the home stretch, folks. One more time through the valley on Cliff Road, and then punching it up the hill for the finish. I am back on Mylan Sherman's from Sakari Racing's wheel. I was looking for him to get me up front. And here's something that would never happen in the Pro 1-2 race. So this is the Masters race, and again, a lot of these guys are Category 2 racers, but based on the size of our field, based on the sheer power of our field, you can move up. And if this was the Pro 1-2 race, I could never go from the very back of the race to the very front without absolutely killing myself, because there would be enough teams where you'd have 2 or 3 of your guys who weren't going for the win, but were supporting you, just drilling it up front. So this thing couldn't happen. But I did. So here I am 3rd wheel. I believe that's Eric Fink, and then I've got Robert Ashton, local Flanders rider, right in front of me. And we are pushing into the home stretch. Everybody's looking around. It's getting pretty swarmy. Got Brendan, who does very well on the weekend, on my rear. And I was actually surprised here. You know, Robert is going for the overall Omnium win for the 50 plus, and he gets out front and pushes the wind for quite a while, quarter mile here, maybe even more than a quarter mile. I loved it, but I kind of felt like saying, "Hey, Robert, find a wheel, buddy." So I surf off of Robert's wheel onto this other Bicycle Shack rider's wheel. And I have Jason Drew on my rear wheel. And again, I'm out of town. I don't know any of these riders. I don't know whether I'm on the right wheel or not, but I'm not going to go early, and I'm just going to try to surf wheels and see what happens. So I decide that even for the finish, I'm going to shift down. I think I misspoke. I'm going to shift down from my 52 to my 36. So right now I shift down. I'm in a 36.11, and I'm spinning like crazy. And my speed data kind of goes all over the place. And my Garmin didn't quite keep up with the speed, but the power seems pretty accurate. So here we go, folks. Shift down, and I'm spinning. Got one rider who's attacked. I come around Eric Fink, get on his wheel, and then I've got this rider I've never seen the whole race. Where was this guy? He just goes. I'm like, he's a bigger guy. I think I could possibly come around him. 1,000 watts, 900 watts. Jason gets pinched on the inside. There was enough room, but... And I go.
They power their way through a big jump, and look at this rider along the inside, taking out the win.
And I tell you, I will never win a hilltop finish again. I don't know. I got lucky. But that felt really good. Yeah. Not even my wife can believe it. Where did that come from? Super, super fun race. Great group of guys. Safe race. And I'll take it. I don't win very often. But when I do, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, my son thinks he's the climber, and I showed him. Very fun race. I'll see you at the crit tomorrow.